Hi, it's Wednesday, January the 18th, and I continue to read and wonder my way through Paul's letter to the church in Corinth. Paul's first letter, actually. It's the only one we're doing for now. And in fact, we're wrapping that letter up. So today it's 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 1 to 4. And chapter 16 is the last chapter. We're going to read it for the next 3 days, and then that'll wrap up the letter. So next week, I will start on John's Gospel. And I know that I read through and wondered about John's Gospel 2 years ago. But that was 2 years ago. The world's changed. I've changed. So as I engage the text again, I suspect the wondering might be a little bit different. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing if that's true. Or maybe I'll just play, repeats of what I did 2 years ago. Probably not. Anyway, today, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 1 to 4. We finished up chapter 15 yesterday, and my goodness, we went out chapter 15 for a lot of days of wondering. But it was, I think, the main thrust of Paul's letter. What Paul really wanted folks to know is about the resurrection of Jesus, the resurrection of humanity, how these things are mutually inclusive. They're intertwined. You don't have one without the other, and it is the core, the center of the faith. Without them, the faith makes no sense. And so Paul has now told you why the faith makes sense and what's essential to it. And so he's shot his bolt. He's done. He's done the stuff with the divisions and all the stuff he's talked about. That's great. But what he built up to is this is the core of the faith, the resurrection of Jesus, the resurrection of us all. Done. Now we're just wrapping up. So 1 Corinthians 16 is the wrap up to the letter. And let's see what happens in the wrap up. 1 Corinthians 16, verses 1 to 4. Now, concerning the collection for the saints, you should follow the directions I gave to the churches of Galatia. On the first day of every week, each of you is to put aside and save whatever extra you earn, so the collections need not be taken when I come. And when I arrive, I will send any whom you approve with letters to take your gift to Jerusalem. If it seems advisable that I should go also, they will accompany me. So, we're just wrapping up. Not a whole lot to wonder about, really, when you think about it. Paul's taken up a collection, taken up some money to take to Jerusalem. Now, I find it interesting that he's taking up the collection, but he wants the Corinthians to deliver it. So, you folks will take it to Jerusalem. I'll write you the letters, but you'll take it. If you need me to go, I will, but you're taking it. I don't think that's because they don't trust Paul, but I think that might be because Paul doesn't want to give them any reason to not trust him. Not that he's creating an air of distrust, but he's acknowledging that can happen very easily. And so he wants to make sure that it doesn't. So you will handle the money, you will take the money. I will help coordinate it, absolutely. But whatever you collect here in Corinth will get to Jerusalem, and you have no reason to doubt that because I'm not handling it. Not because you're going to, but because inevitably human beings do that. Going, well, it was such a big collection we took up. What do you mean it was only $1,500? I was sure it was at least $1,800. What happened to the $300? I wonder if Paul took it. No reason for that to happen except that Paul knows how human beings are. And we do that. So Paul wants to take away the potential for that to happen, for there to be any kind of misunderstanding or mistrust. And it's a small thing, but, in my church, if someone counts money, they don't count alone. We always have two counters. That's sort of our policy. Not because we don't trust our people, but because we don't want to leave any room for doubt. We don't want any foolish accusation to be given any kind of weight, because it's like, oh yeah, you're right. Nobody was there with Bob when he counted. No, somebody was there all the time. So there's no reason to doubt. So we if someone says something careless, you want it to be immediately dismissed because no, we all know. I think that's part of what Paul's doing. And I have some respect for that. Taking away the potential for misunderstanding. basically, to take away the potential for suspicion. When I meet with people, I have open doors. I have a big window in my door. I don't meet with people alone. There's always other people around nearby in the building. Sometimes I meet people in coffee shops. It doesn't mean you can't come into my church office and close the door and have a meeting with me. That does happen. But again, I've got a window in my door, and there'll be other people in the building. And you go like, oh, come on. Really, Norm? Why? Well, I think we've all heard of stories of allegations of clerics abusing people for whom they're supposed to care, vulnerable people, and so there's that wanting to say, listen, we take that seriously, and we don't want to create a place where you might wonder or doubt. But more than that, for me anyway, is I also want to take that away from the person that I'm counseling or that I'm listening to or whatever happens. I remind people that I supervise or mentor quite regularly. I remind colleagues just because I just love bringing it up. As a cleric, I am a paid intimate friend. I'm a professional intimate friend. Make of that what you will. People tell me things they don't tell their partners. So there is an intimacy in that. In 2023, in the culture that I live in, everything that is intimate, all those intimate feelings, tend to be channeled, thanks to my culture, into romantic, sexual. Because that's what intimacy is, right? If I feel like this, then obviously I must want to hug you and kiss you. No, there are so many ways to have an intimate relationship that are not romantic or sexual or anything like that. But we have limited our intimacy vocabulary in the world, it seems. And so everything means, oh, I must want to kiss you. So that can happen when somebody comes to me to tell me their deep, dark secrets they haven't told anybody else. We've created a feeling of intimacy, and so then suddenly they think that they're supposed to kiss me. Or they think that I want to kiss them because we're sharing this intimacy, so obviously that's... So now we have a misunderstanding, and that's where abuse can happen so easily. Or where you have to bring down this border, saying, no, this is my boundary, you can't do that, and then you hurt their feelings. That's a very real thing. The other thing that happens, too, is that people are really glad for what you have provided for them, that safe space for them to be themselves, and they want to reward you for that. Again, in my culture, rewarding is very often a romantic thing. I need to hug and kiss you. I need to to have a relationship with you to prove that I think that what you've done is wonderful. So I need to take that away. The same way that Paul says, no, you handle your money. I say, absolutely, let's have a meeting. Brianna will be right next door, my partner in ministry. Next door if we need help. Just a reminder, oh yeah, there's somebody else here. Lots of light coming in the room. I got a window, that kind of stuff. Or let's meet in a coffee shop. All of that, same as Paul saying, yeah, you guys carry the money. I'll go with you, but you guys carry the money. You take responsibility for it, so you don't have any doubts about my real motivation. Now, that's speaking as a cleric, as a professional religious person, but I think that also can happen for us as people of faith. As I encourage people, I encourage you to talk about your faith with other people and to listen to other people. When we talk about what we believe, that's intimate. It's not kissing intimate, but in this time and place, sometimes we don't know the difference. So it's important, I think, when we share our faith or allow others to share our faith, that we're clear that this is not about kissing intimacy. This is about being honest, vulnerable human beings with each other and daring to tell the truth. Daring to ask you to help me understand my own story as I tell it to you, and you sometimes you speak to me of it, or sometimes you just listen to me as I work it out. But my goodness, there's an intimacy there. I think it helps sometimes to identify that, to know that that's what this is. That's good for us, going like, I'm starting to feel this for this person. Why is that? Oh, because I'm telling them the truth of my faith, or I'm listening to the truth of their faith. Right? That's not a sexual attraction. That's intimacy. That's just being connected. I think that faith is an opportunity for us actually to broaden our vocabulary of intimacy. But I think we need to be intentional and aware of that. Pretty sure that that's not what Paul was getting at in verses 3 and 4 here. But that's where my mind goes. And I think that there's something in that that's relevant. Anyway, let's get off of that topic, shall we? So at the beginning, verses 1 and 2, a couple things are interesting to me as well. Now, concerning the collection for the saints, that would be, so members of the church are the saints, right? So if you're a follower of Jesus, you're the saints. So the collection for the saints is for the church in Jerusalem, which is the national church. It is the mother church. It's the coordinating church. Okay? If you were Roman Catholic, it's Vatican City, in a sense. Again, if you're Presbyterian, Methodist, it's the head office. So now concerning the collection for the church in Jerusalem, here's how I want you to do it. The first day of every week, each of you is to put aside and save whatever extra you earn, so the collections need not be taken when I come. I don't know how your church functions. I know how my church functions. I know how many churches that I've been associated with function. We have appeals, special appeals. Sometimes we'll appeal to you to give money to the church because, well, you like our ministers, right? And if we can't raise enough money, then we can't pay the ministers. Someone's going to have to be let go. Oh, but I like my minister. Of course I'm going to... Here's a little extra because I like my minister. You like the building, don't you? But, you notice how bad the paint is chipping. We need to repaint it. Wouldn't it be nice to have a playground in front, for the kids? You go, oh, yeah, and you're right. I'd like that. So we're having a special appeal to build a playground and repaint the walls. Oh, absolutely. I'll give a little more money to that. We do that. And then we also have the appeals going like, that there are hungry people who live just down the street from us. Here's the story of one of those hungry people, and here's some pictures of them. And you love them, right? You love your neighbor. Jesus told us to, so we need to raise this much money to buy 1,000 meals for our hungry neighbors. And you go, well, absolutely, I got to do that. Of course I want to feed my hungry neighbors. Not only did Jesus tell me to, but I care about them big time, and I'll give you more money to do that. And so we put our money out into special appeals. Appeals for those in need, appeals for the things that we want in our building, appeals for the things that we like. We want to keep our ministers. I will say this about the church that I serve. I would suggest to you that probably about 35% of our donations come in the month of December. Special appeal, years come to an end and we need help to make sure we've balanced the budget, or you want your tax receipt. But look, here's the story of Jesus and how you've got to, it's got to make a gift. So we have a special appeal in December. Whether it's formal or not, we play the appeal game. We also actually have a special appeal, which always makes me laugh, every year, and it's built into our budget. We'll actually have in our budget line the special appeal. For me, special means extraordinary. And if it's always in the budget, then to me that's ordinary. So we have made ordinary the idea of special appeals. So we're always asking for something for different reasons. And we all know, we know this. We know that the science is there. The data is there. We know that people give to specific things. more readily than they do to a thing. So if we say, please give money to the church, people go like, okay, and they make a commitment. We say, we have a roof fund, we have an organ fund, we have a youth fund, we have a benevolent fund, we have a refugee fund. Then people will give to the roof fund and the refugee fund, and they will end up giving more money than they would give to the church, right? Because they'll give to those specific areas because that makes them feel good. It engages their sense of hope and aspiration. Yes, I care about refugees and I want to give more money to help refugees. And so we know those special appeals bring in more money. So we do that. But Paul, I don't think, would do that. I don't think Paul would be impressed with the way that my church functions or that many of our church functions. Paul wants us giving to the church, each and every one of us, as we can. Sounds a little Marxist to me, but anyway, on the first day of every week, each of you is to put aside and save whatever extra you earn. Paul wants this to become part of our lives. Not a special appeal, not an obligation, not a sentimental thing. You like your ministers, right? So you got to pay them. Not that. Paul wants these people to feel part of a community that is bigger than Corinth. It includes Jerusalem. It is the whole church. It is the growing, integrated ministry of sharing the good news of Jesus Christ, is the way that Paul would put it, right? We're going out to share God's love, and we're doing that through an actual network, a physical network, that a community that we have that has costs, right? So we invest in that community because we believe that's a good thing to do. Not on a special appeal, but it's our community, and so we give to it. I go out to buy groceries for the week. It's not a special appeal. Well, I'm really concerned about the hunger of my family. No, we eat. That's what we do. So of course we have money to that. I don't have a special appeal every month when I pay my rent, right? Because I have a roof over my head. I mean, that's integrated into my life. And what Paul wants is the church to be the same thing. Part of your life, like your mortgage and your groceries and your car payment. It's just something you just do regularly. You don't even think about it. So it doesn't require a special appeal. It's routine. It's part of who you are. See, the thing with special appeals is that I can distance myself from the church. I'm not really part of them. Oh, until they do the refugee thing. And now I move in for the refugee thing. That's great, having done that. And now I pull out again. Paul wants me in all the time. Paul wants me in as part of the church community, sharing my ideas and my aspirations and my hopes and also my frustrations. And when I don't think there's something, when I think we're making a mistake, Paul wants me to be part of that all the time. Not back and forth, in and out, in it. And one of the signs that I'm in it is that I am giving according to my need, according to my ability. So this week I have a lot of money. I can afford to give a lot. Next week I have less money. I will give less. The next week after that, I will a little more. I'll give a little more, something in between. But it's all based on what it's so that it's not a fee for service. It's not Netflix. Okay, I'm already down for my $11 a month. I'm covered. It's not that, right? It's connecting my life to the life of the church, realizing that our lives are intertwined. So when things are going well for me, things are going well for the church. When I'm in need, then the church is helping me as well. Or just because I'm giving them less, or maybe I'm receiving from them. I don't know. But we are in this together. And as long as I'm paying a fee, we're not in this together. Netflix and I aren't together on anything. Right? So my giving should be dynamic and changing. And that's what Paul's after. The antithesis of what my church is after as a rule. We like people to give regularly, absolutely. We like them to make a pledge at the beginning of the year and set it in and do it. It just comes out of their banks regularly. It makes it easy for us to budget. Tough times happen. We know that, so the summer months when fewer people come to church, yes, but our givings don't go down because people are already tied into giving electronically. Paul would have no time for that. Paul wants it to be part of your routine, absolutely, Paul wants you to be thinking about it every week. I'm rich this week, I give this much. I'm not as rich this week, I'll give this much. Paul wants us to be dynamically intertwined. At least that's what I think he's saying there. Is he right in this day and age? I don't know. I sometimes think he might be. As a matter of faith, he might be. As a matter of raising funds, he might not be. But what are we really about as a faith community? Are we about raising funds? Or are we about growing in faith, facilitating faith? So, all right, let's not share this with, my church board, because who knows, I could be out of a job. What are you saying? You're going to cost us money, Norm. Yeah, like everything I do doesn't cost us money. Anyway, I guess, and then the other thing is, so why are we collecting this money for the church in Jerusalem? Why? What's the point? Why are we doing that? There are those who would say, well, Jerusalem had a lot of widows and orphans, all right? A lot of people who were in need and were reliant on the church for food and shelter. So there were more of them in Jerusalem than there were in Corinth. So Corinth should be sharing with Jerusalem. I've been told that, as if that was absolutely the way it is, Norm. And then you can look it up in Acts, and there was a famine in Jerusalem. So, okay, so maybe that's what this is. This is a special appeal. I get it. But when people tell me this is absolutely what it means, I kind of get a little touchy about it, because it doesn't say that. It might be that, but it doesn't say it. Concerning the collection for the saints. It doesn't say concerning the collection for the needy in Jerusalem, the vulnerable in Jerusalem. It doesn't say concerning a collection for the needs of the people of Jerusalem. It doesn't say that. It says concerning the collection for the saints, the collecting the money for the church, the mother church, the coordinating church. I would love to have a cup of tea with Paul and ask him. Okay, let's be honest, I'd rather have a beer with him. But anyway, I would love to sit down with Paul and say, all right, I got $100. Should I give that $100 to the family that live beside the church who are hungry? By giving them $100, they will be able to buy some groceries and their hunger needs will be met for the next week. Yeah, like $100 to do that, but you get my point. Should I do that? I mean, there's the need. They're hungry. You can't ignore the cries of the hungry. Jesus tells me not to. There I go. Or should I take that $100 and give it to the church? The church that might use it to build a playground or to paint their walls, but also will use it to equip the people within their walls to go out into the world and share the love of God, to teach people that God is present in the world, to help people understand that they have enough, and in having enough, they realize, I've got all this extra money. I could be sharing this because I don't need it. I no longer need it to make me feel safe and secure because I have found God. So if we can share that message in the world, then people discover that they need less and greed goes down, and we can literally reshape economies, financial and social, by sharing this good news. Where should I put my money, Paul? What gives us the best result? The hungry person in front of my face, or the institution that might help us eliminate hunger? Because Paul believes that, right? Paul believes the church can change the world. And a changed world, which will be under Jesus' rule and everything, but a changed world will mean that I don't have any hungry neighbors. Where should the money go? See, I think Paul is asking for money for the national church. Again, in the time and place that I live, we hate giving to the national church. We hate giving. They don't understand. They're so disconnected. They don't know the real needs. They're just out to get us because they continually disappoint us. They don't give us the resources that we need, or we're critical of that. Sure, they gave us a really great resource, but they spelled some words in it wrong. Like, it's amazing how critical we get of everybody who isn't us. And so we hate giving money. kind of the same way that we hate being taxed. Yes, we're very glad to have, well, I can only speak from the Canadian perspective. We're very glad to have hospitals and roads and police departments and fire departments. We're really glad to have all of that stuff. We're really glad that there are protections for workers. We're really glad to have Social Security. We're glad to have all of that. Whew, thank goodness for that. But we hate paying taxes. Well, there are those who are like, I don't want to give to the Church in Jerusalem. I don't want to give to the national church. And I think that's part of the motivation for my friends going like, well, yeah, but you understand there were a lot of poor and hungry in Jerusalem. That's what the appeal is. I don't buy it. I think Paul is asking for money for the national church, for the mother church, the coordinating church. He's asking for that money because it is the gospel of Jesus that is going to change the world permanently. Right? That's what Paul believes. Now, I'm not saying that Paul's right, but I think it is a thing for us to think about. And whew, I don't know where we're supposed to come out on it. I would never for a moment advocate that a church should ignore the hungry and the hurting. But I also recognize the church does also have a ministry, a mission of equipping the people within that community. One, supporting the people in that community. They come to belong. And they come to hear the good news, and we need to share the good news with them and equip them to share the good news in the world. Share it sometimes in words, but also share it in deeds. That also changes the world. I remember having a discussion not long ago, well, okay, a decade ago, but I'm getting old, so it doesn't seem that long ago. A decade ago, it'd be, declining numbers, the church is no longer relevant. There was a time that governments checked in with the Canadian government would check in with the United Church of Canada before they did anything, wanting to make sure they had support. We've lost our influence. And going, well, yay. I'm glad we kind of lost that influence. So, but I can think of people in my congregations or congregations that I've served in the past who are CEOs and board members of financial institutions and are in human resources and others who are teachers and what they learned in church is affecting the way they do their jobs. So that company isn't saying, well, because of Jesus, we're doing this. But in fact, the person who created that policy came to that understanding because of their relationship with Jesus that they found in their church. So there are times that I wonder if we are not grossly underestimating the power of the church. We may not be waving flags, but we are helping shape lives and attitudes, and those attitudes out in the world also change the world. But I also don't want to withhold my $100 from the guy who lives next door to the church who needs groceries. I'm leaving that with you. See what you think of it. I have no conclusion. It's just what makes me wonder in this passage. Anyway, let me offer a prayer and we'll get into the day. So let us pray. Loving God, thank you for the opportunity to wonder about what it really is to live faithfully, what it is to love our neighbors, what it is to hear each other. God, thank you for the intimacy of this moment. And God, we ask that everything that we wonder today, everything that we share today, we ask that it all be guided by you, that it grow within us, and that it help us grow in faith and bring us closer to you. We pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, through the Holy Spirit. Amen. So that is enough for me today, but I look forward to checking in with you tomorrow when we'll get a little closer to finishing off the letter. And we'll be moving on. We won't be talking about taking up a collection anymore. We'll be doing new stuff, I promise. So until I get to see you, God bless. And you know what that means, right? You know that God sees you. God sees you where you are, as you are, and God loves you where you are, as you are. But God's love also moves through you into the world in incredible ways. So thank you for being you. And know that you're blessed. See you tomorrow.